Well, the Astros have decisions to make this offseason. How much money are they going to make available to Alex Bregman? If they do and they need extra money, could they non-tender Chas McCormick and Jake Myers and maybe go after some other center field help? Would that be an open door for Jacob Melton? Let's talk about it on this edition of Locked On Astros.
Jainer Diaz, this is Locked On Astros.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on X at Eric Talk Astros. Find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can I find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on X, Instagram, and TikTok. They can find me at Stros411 on X and on Facebook. They can also find me at Back to the Bullpen on X, on Instagram, on YouTube, and on iHeartRadio. Look, I'm always positive, always Stros.
Hey guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Whether it's on YouTube, go ahead, subscribe to us, make us first listen. Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, go ahead and check us out. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So, Brett, this is award season. I know we already saw Alex Bregman get the Gold Glove at third base. He's nominated for Altuve and Jainer Diaz, and a couple others are nominated for their top players at their positions.
Right.
But unfortunately, this is one of those rare seasons where the Astros didn't get any individual player nominations for Rookie of the Year or Manager of the Year or Cy Young or MVP or something like that. But I would guess, depending on the way you look at the season, it was kind of up and down season. Maybe that's why. But also with the November 22nd deadline to non-tender players, you mentioned maybe the Astros could, not even just for Alex Bregman, for other players. Like the Astros are still being mentioned for as a landing place for Pete Alonso. And so you'd have to open up a lot of money for that. And non-tendering some players could be an option. So that's what we're going to start off with on this episode. They already non-tendered, technically, not really, but they released Jose Urquidy. That was a way to save the money. And so other options we could talk about is Jake Myers and Chas McCormick.
Yeah, Jake Myers and Chas McCormick are two guys that the Astros are probably wondering what they're going to get out of them this season. And I would like to think initially in the thought process for the Astros, because they have multiple holes that they really need to fill with the unknown of where Alex Bregman is in signing with the Astros, not really hearing much movement in the free agent market, is would it benefit them if they know they can lock down Alex Bregman to non-tender the contracts of Myers and McCormick? Now, I'm going to say I don't think that would be a wise move, because I think one of the two, Eric, will actually contribute this next season, and they may end up keeping McCormick. I think McCormick has a higher upside with the bat. I think his glove plays in certain aspects. Obviously, the better defender is Jake Myers, who has a noodle arm and has not shown the bat that he showed prior to running smack into the center field wall in Chicago in the ALDS a few years ago. So if it's me, I'm keeping at least Chas, because I've got Dubon who can platoon out there. We'll talk about Jacob Melton and other guys. But if you're talking about purely from a money standpoint, I mean, you would save almost $6 million. But is that enough to make a dent to really impact the Alex Bregman signing? I personally am going to say that I don't think so. But what do you think, Eric?
Well, it's not necessarily about non-tendering of both. They don't have the depth in the farm system to non-tender both, but they do have an option of non-tendering at least one of them. Chas McCormick is somebody that Dana Brown really talked up at the GM meetings, and he said that they want to give him opportunity to play and really kind of earn a spot on this team and kind of show that he belongs. And so I don't think he would have done that if he had plans to non-tender him. Chas McCormick is due to make $3.3 million this year. Jake Myers is due to make about $2.2 million. So these are the two non-tender candidates. So every dollar counts. You're talking about $2.2 million. And it's not just about Alex Bregman. It's about staying underneath the CBT. Right now, the Astros are at a projected $233.7 million payroll right now. Okay. And the CBT this year is going to be at 241 million. So that gives them about 8 million to work with right now. So you're not going to be able to do much in terms of free agency or anything, not to mention Alex Bregman or bringing back Carlos Correa or anything else on $8 million. So this is also a way to get other players in. So whether it's another standard fielder, maybe it's just another starting pitcher, because if you let Justin Verlander go, if you let Kikuchi go, you're going to have to make up those innings somewhere. And so this is a way to get the salary off the books where it doesn't penalize you. Unlike Jose Abreu, where you're still paying the $19.5 million, and also Rafael Montero. This is a way to shed the contract before it becomes an issue.
Yeah, honestly, on the Justin Verlander front, because of his lack of help and lack of innings, I don't think they're going to miss him this year. I think him not being on this squad is actually going to be a good thing. I don't see them bringing him back. It makes no sense to bring Justin Verlander back. He's too old. He still wants to compete, but with if he would have been healthy this year, Eric, or only dealt with one stint on the IL, I would say, okay, offer the guy 12, 13 million. Some people saying don't even offer him 10, but it would make sense if he didn't have a recent history of being on the IL time and time again. And the whole neck thing just really worries me. So it makes a little more sense to non-tender one, not both. I wasn't sure where we were going with that, but I think of the two, Jake Myers, if they did this, would do that. But again, I don't know that makes a big enough dent. I think if the non-tender, I think if the amount they were saving was more than the 2 million, then I would say, it's definitely a go. But it's like Dana Brown said, Eric, the Astros are going to have to be creative. I mean, heck, we got Sully on Locked On MLB, who y'all should be listening to, predicting Alonso to the Astros. As Susan posted, she listens to Sully, but he also said making predictions is futile. That's right. I think, Eric, he would say it's like shouting at the tides. I've heard that a lot from Sully. But I think what we'll see with the Astros is I really think they go hard after Bregman. I also really believe that they're going to go after Kikuchi. His agent says that he is worth a lot, but he hasn't been paid a ton. He only has a half of season this last year where he really solidified himself in Major League Baseball. So can the Astros coax him into staying? Look, we're getting rid of Verlander. We got all this money off the books. We can bring you in. And if they bring a Kikuchi in, if they bring a Bregman in, I think you can say c'est la vie to both Framber Valdez and Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what Dana Brown said the other day about multiple 7-8 year contracts. That kind of has the writing on the wall. But Jose Urquidy was due to make $3.7 million next year, and the Astros were able to shave that off the salary. So I still think that any little bit will help. I think, like I said earlier, Chas McCormick probably has more of a, despite the low production last year, I still think that he's done enough in Houston to earn his keep. Myers showed a lot at some point last year, but then he kind of fell off. The defense is there, but like you said, the arm is not there. And Jacob Melton is a much cheaper option. And we know that Jim Crane does not want to go over the CBT unless he has to. If there's a player like a Bregman or a Pete Alonso or somebody that's going to put the Astros over the top, sure, he's going to go over the CBT. But for somebody like Jake Myers, this is somebody that they can just shed, even if it's just a dollar for the Houston Astros. even if that's all he makes technically compared to all the other players. It's still $1 they have to spend somewhere else. So, guys, we'll go and continue this conversation next. Thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Whether it's on YouTube, go ahead, subscribe to us, make us first listen. Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, check us out.
This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Astros. Go to Game Time today. Download the app. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Eric told you how him and his fiance went to the Linkin Park concert in Arlington, not just in Houston. It's events all over the place. It's not just baseball, it's football, basketball, it's music productions. I mean, Christmas season is upon us. There's all kinds of productions that you could be a part of, and you could get the super deals. You can check out Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out the fluff and gives you only the incredible deals on great seats. I've used it. I use it all the time. When I get tickets anywhere, I go straight to Game Time. Seat views, lowest price guaranteed, the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. If you find a ticket in the same row in the same section for a cheaper price, you'll get 110% the difference put into your account so you can buy more tickets. So download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Hey guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen. Go and check us out on your Amazon Fire TV stick as well. You can go ahead and download the free channels app. Just search baseball, and you can find Astros. You can watch Brett and I on your big screen TV. So I'm going to go ahead and address what Supreme Panda is asking. Do you think that we can get Corbin Burns, Willie Gomez, Santander? No, these are all guys that have qualifying offers. These are all guys that are coming off pretty good years, and they're probably going to demand not only high AAVs, which is annual salaries, but also long-term contracts. And the Astros are not likely going to do that unless it's somebody that would be a supreme upgrade, such as I think Pete Alonso is the only guy that I think they would break the rules for because of what he can do in Houston. Also, the fact that they could potentially lose international pool money, they can lose 2 draft picks by signing somebody that has a qualifying offer attached. So these are some things.
Yeah, I think the writing's on the wall. The only qualifying offer person on the entire list is going to be Alex Bregman that they signed. I want to address something, Eric, because sometimes I see things in the comments that I want to kind of talk about. Brian Williams, thank you for listening. Everybody that's here, thank you for listening. He says, I'd rather have Tucker over Bregman. Then he follows it up with an interesting comment. He said, we need new energy in the building. Now, I'm going to have to counter Brian here. I understand about the new energy. I understand about, making sure the energy is flowing. But if you want new energy, I'm sorry, Kyle Tucker over Bregman is not the play. Bregman over Tucker, if you want energy, you need a guy that has a standing in the clubhouse, a standing with the starting pitchers, a guy that is a firebrand, a guy that is a polarizing player to opposing teams, opposing fan bases. Kyle Tucker's not that guy. Kyle Tucker is your solid 5-tool right fielder who's going to do it. But my question is this, who shows up more in the playoffs, Tucker or Bregman? I'm sorry, Tucker doesn't get it done for me in the playoffs. That's Bregman. I just wanted to say it, but I appreciate if you're listening to our audio version, we implore you, go to YouTube, subscribe, listen to us, get involved in the live chat. I've talked to a few of y'all in the last 2 or 3 weeks, Eric. I've met some followers and they're like, yeah, I just listen. I'm like, dude, you got to catch the live show so you can get your word in. And so one more thing, and then I'll let you continue. Signing Jason Hayward and Ben Gamel is not moving the needle. Yeah, I mean, they need to move the needle, but they also have to be creative. They don't have to. And no, we are not getting Juan Soto. So that ship has sailed. Kind of like the song Sailing from the 80s. That is a theme song for Juan Soto, but I bet you he does not end up with the Yankees.
I heard that the Blue Jays were going hard after him, so there's a chance that he could
Maybe
be in
he'll
Toronto.
fly to Toronto and they'll follow his plane and it won't be him, like Ohtani.
Wasn't who was it? Edwin and Carcion. Wasn't he supposed to be coming to Houston? But he was actually making a connection flight to some foreign country. I forgot where it
Oh
was.
man,
But
last year was, that the last couple years have been the year of like really bad information. But here's the thing, and I will defend some of those reporters because they don't share stuff if they don't believe it to be true. In other words, some people say, well, they're just trying to get the story first. Well, they know if the story isn't right, their name kind of is mud. And was that Morosi who came out with the Ohtani stuff in the plane, and people, was it him? And
I'm not sure.
they ripped, I think it was Morosi, I might be wrong, but whoever it was, they ripped that dude for like 2 or 3 weeks. And they're not trying to get stuff wrong. For the Astros, I would love to hear Bregman, Kikuchi. If we do that in the offseason, Eric, I'm okay with that. The icing on the cake would be Pete Alonso.
Yeah, I think that the only one that the Astros would go above and beyond to get is Pete Alonso because of what he would do at Minute Maid Park. He is a pull hitter. He is somebody that would fit perfectly in this ballpark. He plays first base, and the Astros had the worst production at first base in baseball last year. I was so surprised when I was looking at the top first baseman list, and I didn't see John Singleton on there. Maybe even Jose Abreu. I was kind of surprised not to see those names on there. So
your ridiculous comments.
What? I support my players, and so they should be on that list. No,
nobody supports them for top all MLB team. Come on now.
Yeah, but if you're going to upgrade at first base, I can see them going above and beyond. But that means that you're, like you said, you're giving up on Bregman. You're also giving up on Tucker. And you're going to have to go with Bryce Matthews or Shea Whitcomb at third base until you can find somebody else, or you can get a cheaper replacement or have Dubon kind of platoon over there. There are several different options, but I think the Astros are going to do everything they can. But I'm really afraid that this thing with Bregman is going to take a while. And the Astros will be just kind of waiting there, just not doing anything else because they're basically waiting on what Bregman does. And a bunch of teams in baseball are probably waiting on Juan Soto first. Juan Soto may determine where Alex Bregman goes because whoever misses out on him, they may go after Alex Bregman or some of the other players. So we may be waiting for Juan Soto.
Yeah, exactly. Not Juan Soto to come here. Make sure Eric states that properly, because it was like Eric said on Locked On Astros right here. Eugene Palmer says a cheap replacement is Bell at first base. I don't mind bringing Bell in, honestly. I think Bell could do some damage here. But Eric, when you talk about like when they're going to do something, what they're waiting on, you're right. That first shoe to fall will be Soto, then probably Bregman. Those are the two most sought after, I think, big names out there. But here's what I'm wondering. You remember last year, Boris's clients did not get the money that they were going to get. So I wonder how long a player is going to tell Boris that they want to wait. Because remember, the agent works for the player. The player doesn't work for the agent. Okay. The player sets the agent up and says, I want you to make me money. But if I'm a player and I feel like my agent is hurting my overall value because we're trying to hold out for another 15, 20 million, but I can maybe get 9 or 11 of that, then I'm not going to miss out on the 9 or 11 because I'm trying to get 15 or 20 and only get 7. You see what I'm saying? So that is the cat and mouse game. And so just be patient. Panda earlier asked, well, how long or when are the Astros going to do this? We don't know. I don't even know if the clubs know, to be honest with you. You could ask Dana directly. It's a patient game. It is a game where you're like, okay, we just have to wait, and it's going to be slow. But once it starts happening, it's going to start happening really, really fast.
Yeah, a lot of people across baseball are still predicting that Bregman comes back to the Astros. So what he's
100.
going to do is he's going to go date other teams for a little bit. He's going to see what they have to offer. And if he doesn't think the grass is greener on the other side,
Eric,
he may come back and be like, you know what? Let's go and get married, Astros. Let's go and get
Eric,
married for the rest of our career.
I wonder what season of life Eric's in right now.
So anyway,
Wedding
that's
bells, sir.
we're going to go and continue this conversation next on the Locked On Astros podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen, and we'll be back.
That's right. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Go to FanDuel.com today. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can get $5. Can get $150 when you bet $5. When that $5 bet wins, you'll get $150 in bonus bets. The FanDuel Sportsbook gives you everything you need in one place to place live bets on the NFL. It doesn't mean, like, usually people are like, well, I've got to go to Yahoo Sports, or I've got to go to this site, or I've got to go to that site. I've got to go to this channel. No, it's all there in the app. In the middle of the game, when you get a hunch, check out the latest stats, live play-by-play, much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com today and join. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch, and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Go ahead and subscribe to us. There's this little red button down there. All you have to do is hit subscribe and give us a big fat thumbs up while you're at it, and go and make us part of your daily routine, become an everydayer. And you can hear us talking about, yesterday we talked about everything that's going on with the Astros, and we're going to be doing that all off season. So make sure you make us part of your daily routine. While everybody's talking Texans, Rockets, we're here talking Astros baseball. So to go back to this, yes, I think Bregman is looking for the best deal, but he also wants to be on a team that wins. And at this point, I know you're going to tell me about somebody in the national media in a second that really thinks the Astros have a shot. MLB just put out a power rankings, and the Astros are number 8 on that power rankings. And so, but they also said it's, you can never count out the Astros, but it also depends on what happens with Alex Bregman. But Alex Bregman knows what's going on in the farm system. He understands that they have one of the worst farm system. He understands that the window may potentially be closing at some point. And does he really want to sign this long-term deal with the Astros if their window to win is potentially over in maybe 3 years or so?
Yeah. I don't think we can put a timetable on the Astros window, because that could be a year-to-year thing, Eric. You could think that the window is closed and all the competition around you goes through a terrible season where they're having injury, where they go through losing streaks, and the Astros strike the iron while it's hot, make a run, and get to the World Series when they're not expected to. So run or not, what I am focused on is, this is what I'm wondering, Eric. Do these words concern you? Okay. This is Dana Brown on Tuesday. He says, I'm going into the offseason with the thought process that we're going to get Bregman back. Now, if he ends up going elsewhere, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I'm not saying the Astros don't have a plan, but that doesn't sound to me like they have a definitive plan, which tells me the Astros are probably more in need of Bregman than Bregman is of the Astros. And if that's the case, then the ball is in Bregman's court, wouldn't you think?
Yeah. And he has the advantage here. He can basically, the Astros have to make him an offer that he can't refuse. This is not something they can lowball him. They can't get a hometown discount. He is going to be desired. Other teams are going to be saying, we'll give you your own private suite for your family. We'll be giving you your own private jets or something. They'll be throwing out all these different perks to come to play with them, whether it's the Yankees or whatever, because he is that type of player. Now, I know as Astros fans, we've watched him play. We've seen him at his best. We've seen him at his worst. But I think that Bregman won't take as long as some of the other players did. People have seen what happened to Blake Snell and all these people, Jordan Montgomery, that signed late. Yet Blake Snell was the only person that really had success last year. But the other ones, they don't want to wait that long. Money is great, but at the same time, they want to be ready for the season. They want to have a full season. And so Alex Bregman is going to pick the deal that makes sense. And I don't see him taking that long. Now, I don't know about the Astros if they're going to do what it takes to get it done. I don't know if they'll do what it takes to get Kyle Tucker done, just because of the fact they won't go past 6 years. So we'll have to see what the Astros do. They have to basically sell these guys on, hey, well, the window's not about to close. We ain't done yet. We still got some more years. And as fans, we could say, oh, yeah, this team's going to win for the next 10 years. We can do this. But the farm system, it says otherwise. And they keep on trading for players and losing prospects.
So right here, Texas USMC. Hey, if you serve the military, I just want to say this. I put a little short out today, and we didn't say something yesterday because we have the show today. If you're listening on Tuesday, it might be a little late, but happy Veterans Day, and thank you to those of y'all who served. Now, let me put this back up here. He said it looks like the only shot at an impact player is to trade Fromber. I'm all in on trading Fromber. If we have the horses in the barn to go out and compete, and we have a healthy pitching staff, I think also to trade Fromber, you probably have to bring back Kikuchi. If you don't bring back Kikuchi, then trading Fromber doesn't make much sense. And then the question becomes, if you're a seller at the trade deadline, do you then trade Fromber? And because he said maybe trade Fromber to the Guardians for Josh Naylor. I want more than that. I want an MLB ready player or an MLB player, and I want a couple prospects, at least top 50, top 100. I don't know if you get that, but you need something in return for Fromber Valdez. Now, that would be a shift in mindset too. We talked about shift in mindset last night's show. That would be a shift in mindset, Eric, because the Astros haven't done that. They let these guys walk. They don't make the trades. But, that's not the thing to do. The Angels didn't do it with Ohtani. Can you imagine what the Angels would have gotten had they traded Ohtani even for that half season? I don't think he ends up and stays in Baltimore, but Baltimore could have given them the moon if they would have made him available. And, the Angels got a decent farm system, but they could have been a lot better off had they done that. I think Ohtani ultimately ends up in LA with the Dodgers. But, gosh, Fromber is a guy that if you're going to trade anybody, he can get you something back in return.
I think with his history, forget what he does in playoffs. I think with his history and during the regular season, I think teams would definitely trade some talent to get him. And just look at all the teams that are interested in Tariq Skubal last year. Just imagine if the Tigers did not actually traded him at the trade deadline, like a lot of teams speculated, or a lot of the insiders and everything speculated. The Tigers probably wouldn't have made the playoffs, but they did. And so the Astros, they kind of have the mindset of the Tigers. The Tigers did trade Jack Flaherty, and they did trade some other players, but they still had eyes on going to the postseason. So the Astros have got to find a way to be able to trade some players, but still have the eyes on trying to make the playoffs. And you can't do that by having all the highest contracts. Just ask the Yankees. The Yankees have tried all these years, and this is the first time that they've made it to the World Series since the early 2000s. And so this is a situation where the Astros are kind of at a crossroad. They need to, do we need to spend more money? Go with the youth, or just decide what to do here. And so Jim Crane, Dana Brown, they're all weighing all this stuff. So they're not sitting there twiddling their thumbs waiting for Bregman. I'm pretty sure they're coming up with alternates. So definitely something that was not surprising, like we talked about, was there's no award nominations. I know there's some Silver Slugger awards that we'll talk about tomorrow. Some of the Astros are nominated for that, but there's no MVP coming from the Astros. There's no Cy Young. There's no manager of the year. And you would think after that horrendous start by the Houston Astros that they would got that Joe Espada would have got some cred. I'm sure he got some votes for manager of the year, but not first or second place votes.
No, I don't. Yeah, no, I don't. I'm sorry. I don't think Espada. Yeah, I understand what you're saying about like turning things around, but I don't see that. I want to answer Panda's question before we go, but talking about the awards, AJ Hinch is up for manager of the year, done a phenomenal job. I believe the Guardians coach who's at vote is up there as well. You've got some really good candidates. I think it's going to be Paul Skeens in the National League for the Cy Young. I think it's going to be Skubal in the American League. I think Ohtani wins the MVP. Francisco Lindor made a heck of a case. If there's anybody that can chase down Ohtani in the MVP race, I think it would be him, but he didn't have a full season of success. But next year, 2026, Panda asked who the opening day starter will be. If we have Valdez and he's fully in and he's here, he's your starter for opening day. If he's gone and he's traded, which I don't think they would trade him in the offseason, but if they do, I think that's an easy slide to ace is Hunter Brown. But I think if they don't bring back Kikuchi, I think you've got to keep Fromber for the time being. If you get Kikuchi back, you might be able to talk about trading, but you will need to trade him. Oh, you can trade Presley. Can you imagine if Presley agreed to go to a contender? Could you package? Now, it might be insane. Presley and Fromber in the same package. That would be insane. You could get a ton back. I don't know who would do that. I think that'd be kind of stupid in one trade. But anyways, there is a million different ways to peel an onion, and the Astros, I think, will choose the right route.
Yeah, and don't forget that at some point, Christian Javier will return, and he could return to his dominance as well. So the Astros do have a deep rotation. So I do think that they need to add some pitching depth this offseason. They don't need to go in with the status quo because otherwise they'll have to make another Kikuchi trade at the deadline. And not that it didn't work, but we'll continue this conversation next time. Thank you for making us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify. We'll see you tomorrow, and go Astros.
Good show, man. Let's sign Kikuchi. Let's sign Bregman. Let's sign Alonso and Juan Soto. Let's do it all.